Next part about all my books and colored pictures, I decided to start from the Fantasy Mermaids coloring book. Probably it's one of the most beautiful or the most beautiful book about mermaids I have in my collection, and I have a lot of them from many artists. This one was printed under Color Mood Books copyright, and the real artist is from girl from Ukraine, so it's quite cool. Well, it's Amazon printed, so the biggest problem here is paper. It's not as soft as Tatiana Pagema, slightly better, but still it requires some efforts if you want to do the whole page with pencils. So my method to work here is to use together markers because it's one-sided and pencils. So here I have my first work, and I even managed to use here quite budget color pencils, maybe a little bit of Star Choice. And yeah, it's better to use it together with blender if you want to color quickly and to get nice smooth coverage without visible spots and white dots from the paper. I do love this shipwreck, and as I said, I do love how beautiful are mermaids, but also pictures around are quite nice, very detailed, very well balanced compositions. Another one I did, it's I think that again I first did everything on the background with alcohol-based markers, and then I worked with pencils. Here I used Arteza and some other brands, I don't remember, because I did it not for this mermaid but for the previous one. Unfortunately, this May I didn't have this book with me when I packed my books. I tried to think about something on the better paper, so I packed my other books and I didn't color anything in this book during the whole year. I remember that just before the war started in the beginning of February, I wanted to start a page here. It have to be here. I wanted to do either that where I had my bookmark or this one. So I started this one. I did this marker background very simply, but good as a base where I can add additional contrast and shadows with pencils. And then war started and I forgot about this book and about everything else. And final page which I have here also old work 2 years ago. It's this mermaid where I love how I did background and her hair, but I slightly messed up when I selected colors for her tail and for the corals and seaweeds around. Maybe on the screen it's not so bad looking, but I would prefer more contrast colors for this area of the corals and seaweeds and her golden tail. I do love how I did golden tail. I think that all scales they look shiny and bright, exactly like I wanted. But I did it on the last step, and on the previous step I did this background because I usually prefer to do background first. And I was so interested in combining various pencils, again maybe from Arteza, because I can recognize some of the shades of their peach and pink colors. So I was curious to blend them, to try them, and I didn't think about how it would look together with the golden tail. So now it's slightly not what I expected. If I would have darker and more contrast colors here, it would be more spectacular probably, but still I love many details here and I definitely intend to continue working in this book. It's nice that I looked at it now and now I want to continue that book with seahorses. Maybe I can color bigger areas with markers, it would be a good practice for me. Next book which I want to include in this series, it will be Night Voyage. The next book in this series will be my one and only book by D.Song. I have Night Voyage. Well, it's a nice book. The only quality problem I have here is this binding. I'm constantly afraid that pictures will be falling out, and that's definitely kind of binding which I absolutely dislike. It's sadly a book which I hadn't touched this year. Maybe now when I look at it I will be inspired to do something here. It's a frightening book because it has huge pictures, mostly spreads, and they are extremely detailed. But in the same time, they are very beautiful, and I do love surface of the paper. I wouldn't say that you can use watercolors, at least I wasn't very fortunate, but neocolor crayons, they were my lifesavers in this book. After I did couple of spreads like this one, the next one with pencils, I realized that I definitely won't be able to do next pictures with pencils on the background. So I was waiting until I got my set of neocolor crayons, and couple of next backgrounds I did with their help. They work on this paper really well. When you apply a moderate amount of water, everything spreads on the surface of the paper quite well without any bleeding through, and I tend as usual to color with very bright color palette as I usually do, but at least in this book it's well justified because for me it's a book of children's illustrations, and we have this story about dreaming girl. She has this travel in time and around the world, quite interesting story. That's another one of the spreads where I was totally frightened by the background, but with crayons I managed to do exactly what I imagined to do. When you look at the picture first, you do, okay, I can color this, but what to do with the rest of the page? So I was very fortunate when I get my new colors. Next, that's where my patience and my courage stopped. I wanted to color this book in order, but this spread is another very detailed picture, and I think that even with my speed, I would need the whole month to finish it. I definitely intend to return to this book now. When I look at it, I think that definitely pictures which I love the most, with a lot of details, with interesting perspective, many different details. Well, but they all are spreads, and I don't love to leave my work abandoned. But to color the whole month just one spread, I don't know. I need to find for myself some kind of technique how I can color this one. Maybe to color first individual pictures, but they are mostly spreads. Well, I don't know. I'm less inspired by those patterns. We have them in this book. They are not very interesting, definitely not for me. I can color one element and then I would be bored. With watercolors I could do such page, but with pencils I don't think that I can color repeated elements. It's not very amusing for me. And let me show you my final finished page here, again with neo colors. Here I decided to do this slightly strange but still quite spectacular background with those air bulbs or some other elements on the background which I draw myself, and I used all yellow, orange, red colors from Neo Color palette, and I think that it worked really well together with cold gray colors of those tubes. So this one I enjoyed to color. Well, I need to promise myself to return to this book because I already started to do this one, but I think that here I tested watercolors and I wasn't happy how it looks less intense comparing to what I needed. Maybe I need to finish this a background with pencils on top of watercolor, and then to do this very interesting metallic door. When you color this book, you need a lot of patience, but also a lot of imagination. That's another one which I want to color as a symbol of my own reading, my love to reading. In February and March I suffered a lot because I totally wasn't able to read anything, and it was like I lost part of myself, I lost a limb. Because of the stress, it was impossible to read anything, even the easiest books. But then gradually, somewhere from the middle of summer, I started to read again, and I started to appreciate it once more. So now I want to color something about reading books, and I do love that she's going to dive into this book like a new journey. Well, it's a good book apart from the problems with binding. I definitely don't think that I need more D.Song books in my collection. Her previous books are also okay, but for me this one is the best. Now let's move to my one and only Klara Markova. I have this Czech edition. I even did my title page here. Here I can work with everything, with watercolors, with pencils. Mostly I prefer polychromases, but Prismacolors also are quite okay. Sometimes I use together polychromases and Prismacolors depending from color palette I need. But this one I did using Ecoline liquid watercolors. Kolorowanka is on my YouTube channel, so if you need it. And I think that mostly I was attracted to those flowers. I wanted to color all of them in this yellow and pink color palette and to create beautiful color combo together with lilac bow. Well, I am happy that in this book you don't need to limit yourself to something realistic. You can do crazy colors for the leaves, crazy colors for the flowers. I think that the only reason why I don't color in this book more frequently is because I already saw so many beautiful finished pictures that sometimes I have doubts if it's this my own idea for the next picture or I copied it subconsciously from someone else. But at least I know that for these unicorns it was my own idea of this yellow green olive background. I decided that it would create nice contrast to the irises. And of course, most of all, I'm proud of my unicorns. I tried to use some similar and some different colors. So mother is slightly more creamy lavender and girl is more lavender blue, but still I think that they look quite magical, and it even seems to me that they are slightly shiny from inside. They create some light. I also love to do these smaller projects. Sometimes it's very nice and relaxing. I'm especially in love with all her underwater scenes. And I missed this book a lot during this May when I wanted to color these mermaids, but I didn't have this book with me. So I have this adorable seahorse. I think that it's polychromos pencils. Then I have this night scene, which is my recent work. I think that I did it in September. Again, quite simple idea to work on the contrast between dark and bright colors. Those sources of light helped me to show reflections of this light on the nearest objects, and then of course I turned those mushrooms into additional sources of light. Magical light coming from them helps to make those beds a little bit more cozy. When I first looked at the books by Klara, I was slightly afraid how to color her elves and how to color her insects, but now I find them totally adorable. And of course, quality of her books, it's high top. Here I have another page with tiny projects. That was a huge pleasure to do this one. I think that I did it for some of the previous Februaries when everyone color couples, and I selected this date beneath the moon or date on the moon, and I do love that apart from the main couple we have another two couples of insects, quite adorable. As I said, I can experiment with craziest colors for the flowers. Sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming, such amount of various details. Sometimes you think that you can work with smaller amount of details, but in the end, usually you manage to color everything in quite nice, bright and cheerful pictures. That's my Halloween project. But she is adorable. Laughable but adorable. Here, one of my craziest experiments with this color of the background. I don't know why I selected it. I think that as usual I was thinking that these pencils, they are sitting idly in my pencil box and I need to try and to use such intense colors at least somewhere. So this page suffered from my experiments. I colored this little guy 2 times because for the first time I forgot to switch on my camera, so I had to color it to create video the second time, but I enjoyed both times. Oh, I remember that was my first page in this book and I did it with Prismacolors, so as I said, I love both brands here. I totally forgot that you can cut the lid for the box from the last page of the book. Maybe I will do it later. I was afraid that when you color this one, this glued lid, it would be slightly disturbing the surface of the next page. Oh well, I need to color something from this book for this year. Maybe this one. Or maybe this adorable, I was thinking about this very cozy room with mice. Crazy busy picture but adorable. I remember how long it took me to do this one. Here I have mix of polychromoses and Prismacolors for some of the pastel colors. Yeah, it was long, but it was a lot of fun and I think that things here they look definitely yummy and I practiced how to do better color mixes for the cookies, for the lollipops, for the gingerbread houses. Well, very nice book. And finally, my 2 books by Eriy. I actually have another one, but I hadn't started to color in it yet. I also have Travel Through Time. I wish I had third book, third romantic country, but at least I have first and second. Well, the first one was a huge disappointment. It was one of the first books which I ever purchased when I just discovered Book Depository more than 5 years ago. I purchased it, I had watercolors, I had Kohinoor and Derwent Colorsoft pencils in my stash, and that was all. And all this media, watercolors and Colorsofts, they behaved awfully here. I was very disappointed. I realized that I'm not used to this style, so it was slightly different, slightly difficult, especially when I looked at all those strange branches, bold branches and leaves, and I didn't know how to do backgrounds. All pencil backgrounds, they look awful. Nothing wanted to lay smoothly, nothing wanted to blend. So it was abandoned for maybe 3 years. And only when I got my Prismacolors, I got new color crayons, polychromoses, I started to color in this book. I still struggle a lot. I still think that choice of the paper is really bad. But I was convinced by many other colorists because I even saw how people used Inktense pencils here and other brands. And that's why I decided to purchase also the second book. Here I love all pictures, here not so much. So let me show you what I colored here. I have this library. I think that I used neo colors and they work not very well here. They create stains, they don't spread very well, but at least they help to cover bigger areas quickly. The rest is Prismacolors. Then I did this spread which I relatively well managed to finish. Still, I also saw a lot of finished pictures in this book. I try not to look at the works by other artists to be able to add something from myself. So I try to add my individual touches to this page. I added flowers on the tree, and here I added flowers here to the area of the grass. I think that it looks more in spring time now, and I'm glad that it made it more colorful. And that was another one of my experiments with unusual colors for the buildings. So I have this blue wooden barn building, and so I love this home. Well, this one was quite fun to do. Usually I don't use such colors for greenery, they are not very natural looking, too intense, but for this page I think that it was justified, and I decided to add more colorful accents, trying to show these trees which start to change color from green to yellow and orange. And of course those bunnies, they are so adorable, they are looking at this sign, no bunnies, and I imagine how they want to try those carrots and cabbages. I hope that they will manage to steal something. Well, next I have spread where on the left side I again experimented with neo colors first, and then I sprinkled all not very successful areas with huge amount of pearlescent and metal watercolors. For the Halloween page it worked really well. Here I used polychromoses, Faber-Castell polychromoses, but well, Prismacolors still a better choice for me. And the right side, which I called 50 Shades of Bread, I made it with Prismacolors. It was fun because I really tried to do slightly different color for the bread. I hope you can see it here. They are slightly different, and I used different Prismacolor combos for them, so everything looks yummy, and I learned a lot. I do love that we need to find this adorable geese on each of the pictures. It's like feature of this series of the books. I think that I definitely will color this library. I think that it's quite nice. Well, I never have enough patience to color all those books when we have many repeated objects, but I think that for the library I can do it. Well, that's another two pictures which I intend to color, especially this nice kitchen. I do love country kitchens in Provence style. I think that I can add texture to the wall behind, maybe bricks, maybe wallpaper. But I'm still confused what to do with this kind of pictures. I saw amazing finished pictures where people draw beautiful landscapes behind, but that's definitely not for my coloring skills. I think that I won't be able to do it. Well, here I did this stable, and I think that everything was well, apart from the horse. Something isn't quite right with her neck, but well, I practiced. At least all the metal, wooden parts, they were quite okay. I tried to make bright spot because of this very bright magenta for the girls' clothes, so even if background is detailed, you immediately look at this adorable girl. Next I have this unfinished page. Again, I wanted to draw some kind of bushes behind, maybe rose bushes, and somehow my pencils didn't want to work, but I think that I will finish this one because I love how I started to color it. leaves it's easy to color, but problem is that I want to add more leaves here and bushes behind. I just need to sit and to finish it. I promise that it won't be abandoned. Here I simply did this one for fun because it was interesting to color it, thinking about traditional German Bavarian clothes. The only thing which I totally dislike here is that along the edges, along the sides of the picture, I added, it was like mocha or beige color of watercolors. I wanted to create a slightly old paper effect, but here it created such terrible dirty stains. On other types of paper I used this watercolor and it was very pleasant light beige. Here it's just dirty. I was slightly disappointed, but I tried to look at the central part. Well, that's another one which I want to do. Here, where finally I managed to use watercolors for the background without problems, it's just one claret watercolor with tiniest amount of water, and I managed to get this very smooth and very opaque coverage, so I was pleasantly surprised. I wanted exactly this color because I was thinking that it would create a beautiful contrast with white and pink pansies here, and then nice picture in the middle made with Prismacolors. Well, I remember that I dedicated a couple of months last summer, not this one but last one, to finish this picture gallery, but in the end I think that it looks quite nice and spectacular. I added those blue lines as imitation of wallpaper behind all the paintings. For the frames I used the same 3 pencils from Prismacolors, but in slightly different proportion, and because of the different ornament everything looked slightly different, and I love this effect. It was fun, even if all those animals they are very simplified. Well, at least it's not frightening to color them. Really nice. Well, when I look at it now, I think that actually I can color many pictures here. Somehow I persuaded myself that I don't have any inspiring pictures and I need to switch to the second book. But no, still some of the pictures are quite good. I think that I did this one after I saw one of the documental films, and I was surprised that even in Renaissance castles there were wallpaper with this quite unusual light aqua color. I didn't think that they used such color in decoration in medieval time, Renaissance time, so I decided that I will put it also on my castle walls, palace walls, and I think that in the end everything worked quite well. I tried to change slightly this vase to add more leaves because it looked again quite bold, but apart from it, it was nice. My first picture which I really liked in this book when I started to color was actually this one. Again, I used neo colors to put basic pink color to the walls, but then I applied pencils on top of it to mask some of the stains, and I added more bricks because I was afraid that I won't be able to work to cover big areas of the empty walls smoothly, so I added additional bricks. Apart from this, everything else was without problems. I do enjoy to color all baked goods when I can find them on pictures. Here I managed to do this stained glass and wooden texture, so I realized that actually you can work on this paper with a lot of efforts, but still you can. Here I have another page where I added something from myself, those grape leaves and grape berries, again just to feel that I didn't copy anyone else but to do my own picture. And that's where I realized that watercolors, they look awful. Somehow they look faded, they didn't provide me bright colors. when I know that on the other types of papers there were quite beautiful and clear and bright colors. So I abandoned the idea to use watercolors in these books. In the second book, I don't have many finished pictures, and I feel sad that I abandoned it during last months. I need to return here. I remember that it was also one of the pictures which I started in the days before the war. It was like 20th of February. I wanted to return to it. I was thinking that it was just after 14th of February, and I was thinking that it also can be a love letter or something like this, magical inks, beautiful old paper. It was interesting to color metals. Then I abandoned it, and I think that I need to return to it. I maybe even have picture when I did this background, maybe not in the video with this background, maybe not in the very good quality. But let's look at the better picture. That's the spread of which I am totally proud of. Huge amount of time, efforts, thinking, color planning, but I think that in the end everything worked quite well. I was lucky that I managed to divide this page into several groups, like first shop, second shop, third shop, then this flower and vegetable. So it never was quite boring. I did part, then I put it aside for a week, then I returned to the next part, and in such way I always felt excited to return to this spread. Really nice, and I do love those umbrellas, like uniting point of the whole village market. Here I have the dressmaker room. Again, it was quite fun trying to select something new for the wall color. I did those board with sketches, and of course a very bright, extremely bright and intense color for the dress, so all the attention goes here immediately, and only after it you look at other adorable details. I do love how I did quilt. I want to color this one. Don't ask me why I hadn't colored it this summer. I put it into all my plans, but somehow I never had enough time. Well, last autumn, last Halloween, I did this huge spread because this street it reminded me about Diagon Alley from Harry Potter, and look, wizards' brooms. Wizards were a lot of cauldrons, potions, and even owls. I would say that it's perfect illustration for Harry Potter, for wizards shopping. So again, I colored shop after shop, trying not to feel overwhelmed by the amount of details. And the only pity was that part of it was closer to the binding, not very comfortable to color. I did everything with Prismacolors, and now I can see that even if I added stars on the sky, somehow blue pigment of Prismacolor pencils, it ate all my white Posca. I think that I need to return with white acrylic paint and to add more stars, because sky it looks slightly empty. That's another one which I absolutely love. For me it's also part of the Hogwarts castle, some studying room, and you can find a lot of adorable details here inside of the cupboards, on the shelves, all those skulls, potions, magical herbs, again cauldron with some experiment books, and of course we again can find our friend geese. I always struggle how to attract attention to the main character because of the very detailed background. Girl, she risks to be lost, but I try to find one unique color and to use it for the clothes. That's my trick. Here we have this room for the study of herbs. Well, I think that something is bothering me here. Probably how I didn't manage to do nice difference between what we have inside of the room and outside landscape. I need to do it in more pale pastel colors to create better difference between interior and exterior parts. But apart from it, I do love it. Well, I guess that's all for this book. Oh no, I have this beautiful winter spread. Yeah, of course I did it last winter, and I think that it's one of my best works here. Again, my favorite trick to use strong contrast between quite calm, cold, grayish colors for the walls and for the glass windows, and very bright primary colors for the decorations. Red, gold, blue, they always work well together. And I also added my favorite magenta, purple, lavender colors. I added more decorations to both Christmas trees to make them more festive. So I think that in the end it worked exactly like I imagined, even if in the beginning I was honestly afraid to start this one. But now I am proud that I started it and that I finished it. Maybe you can see, but it's also sprinkled with white paint, so it's very delicate falling snow over this winter page. And I think that it will be a nice final point for this part of my series. I hope that you will return for the next one.